Hello, welcome to today's video. Be sure to subscribe to my channel. Oakhaven had always been a town draped in perpetual twilight, even at high noon. The gnarled, ancient oaks that gave the town its name clawed at the perpetually overcast sky, their branches heavy with unspoken secrets and the rustling whispers of unseen things. I inherited my grandmother's house there, a place whose plaster walls seemed to crack and breathe, a place locals would skirt after dusk, muttering about sudden cold spots on the path and the lingering scent of lavender mixed with something else. Something strangely metallic. The first night, the silence was the loudest, most invasive sound imaginable. It was a thick, suffocating blanket that muffled even the frantic, terrified thrum of my own pulse in my ears. The house groaned around me, a symphony of settling timbers and insidious drafts that felt like icy, invisible fingers tracing the lines of my skin, leaving a trail of graveyard chill behind. In the attic, directly above my bedroom ceiling, a single floorboard creaked with a slow, deliberate, and maddeningly relentless rhythm. Creak, pause, creak. It happened every few hours, a lonely, unsettling metronome keeping time with some unseen dread, stealing any chance of sleep from my eyes. I tried to smother the growing fear with logic. It's just an old house, shifting foundations, the play of the wind. But the air was unnaturally still, heavy with the cloying sweetness of overgrown honeysuckle from the garden, a scent that, after a few days, began to twist in my nostrils, transforming from something pleasant to something sickly and oppressive. Then the whispers began. At first, I dismissed them as the wind in the old, warped window frames. Faint, indecipherable, fleeting murmurs, like voices hovering just beyond the absolute threshold of hearing. But they grew bolder, graduating from random chance to clear intentionality, seeping into the dense silence of the night. They seemed to emanate from within the walls, from the very damp, aged fabric of the house itself. Sometimes, in the dead of night, I could almost make out words. My name, Alistair, drawn out in a long, mournful, and ethereal sigh. One rain-lashed evening, as I was huddled by the meager, shivering fire in the hearth, I heard it clearly. A child's voice, thin, reedy, and filled with an endless, echoing sorrow, weeping just outside the front door. I held my breath, every muscle in my body pulled taut like a wire. I knew, with a primal certainty that froze the marrow in my bones, that no living child would be out in such a merciless storm. The weeping persisted, a heartbroken, desolate sound that tugged at something deep, forgotten, and buried within my own soul. Slowly, my hand visibly trembling, I reached for the cold, iron door handle. The metal felt like a touch of death. I pulled the door open in one sudden, jarring move. The porch was empty. The rain hammered down relentlessly. The wind howled through the skeletal branches of the oaks. But the weeping, it hadn't stopped. It was closer now, impossibly, seemingly coming from behind me, from inside the very room where I stood. Terrified, I whirled around, my heart a frantic drum against my ribs. In the dim, dancing light of the fire, I saw it. A small, pale handprint on the dusty surface of the mirror hanging above the fireplace. It was the size of a child's hand, with fingers that were impossibly long and unnaturally thin. I had not been near that mirror in days. Panic clawed at my throat. I backed away, my eyes fixed on the ghostly print. As I watched in horror and disbelief, a second, identical handprint bloomed into existence beside it. Then a third. They appeared on the glass out of nothing, like pale flowers of fear. That night, sleep was a distant, unattainable luxury. The whispers intensified, swirling around my head like a suffocating vortex. They were no longer indistinct murmurs. I could now hear complete phrases, words laced with a chilling sorrow and a desperate, agonizing longing that felt ancient. Lost, so alone. Where did you go? The floorboard in the attic above began its slow, deliberate creak. Creak, pause, creak. But tonight, another sound accompanied it. A soft, continuous dragging, as if something heavy and limp was being pulled with great effort across the dusty wooden floor. I couldn't bear it any longer. Armed with a rusty poker from the fireplace, I crept up the narrow, groaning stairs to the attic. With each step, the air grew colder and heavier, the scent of lavender intensifying, mingling sickeningly with that faint, metallic undertone that made my stomach churn with a sour dread. The attic was shrouded in thick, tangible shadows, the single, grimy window offering little more than a glimpse of the storm-racked and angry sky. Cobwebs hung like macabre, gray shrouds from the rafters, and the air was thick with the sharp smell of decay and forgotten time. In the center of the room, the floorboard I'd heard creaking was bare and splintered. There was no sign of anyone or anything. Then I saw the trunk. It was tucked away in a dark corner, a heavy, iron-bound chest that looked as old as the house itself. It was slightly ajar, a sliver of absolute darkness beckoning from within. The dragging sound, it had to have come from there. My hand trembled as I reached for the heavy lid. It groaned open with a sound of protest, revealing a jumble of old clothes, yellowed letters tied with faded ribbon, and a collection of antique dolls with vacant, glass-staring eyes. I sifted through the contents. My fingers brushed against something cold and smooth. I pulled it out. It was a small, silver locket, tarnished black with age. Its surface was intricately engraved with the initials E.M. My breath hitched in my throat. My grandmother's name was Evelyn May. With trembling, numb fingers, I flipped open the locket. Inside, nestled against a faded velvet lining, were 2 strands of hair. One was long and silver, unmistakably my grandmother's. The other was short, thin, and the dark, brownish color of dried blood. And then I heard it again. The weeping. It was faint, coming from somewhere deep within the walls of the house. But this time, a new sound accompanied it. A soft, rhythmic scratching, like tiny, desperate claws dragging endlessly across wood. The dolls in the trunk seemed to shift in the dim light, their vacant eyes fixed on me with an unsettling, shared intensity. The air grew colder still, and the scent of lavender became overwhelming, suffocating. The metallic undertone was stronger now, coppery and sharp, the unmistakable scent of violence. A floorboard behind me creaked. I whirled around, the poker raised. Standing in the doorway, barely visible in the gloom, was a small figure. It was slight and pale, its features obscured by shadow, but I could see the faint glint of something sharp in its hand. The figure took a slow, deliberate step into the attic. The weeping grew louder, closer. The scratching intensified, now seeming to come from all around me. And then, the figure spoke. Its voice was thin and reedy, filled with a heartbreaking sorrow and an ancient, chilling accusation. "Where did you go, Evelyn?" The locket fell from my numb fingers, clattering on the dusty floorboards. The dolls in the trunk remained fixed on me, their silent judgment palpable. The scent of lavender and blood filled the air, a suffocating shroud. The small, pale figure took another step, and in the deepening shadows, I finally saw the glint in its hand clearly. It was a pair of small, rusty scissors. And the floorboard above my bedroom creaked again. Creak, pause, creak. The stillness in Oakhaven was a lie. It was the held breath before the scream. And I knew, with a chilling certainty that settled deep in my bones, that the scream was finally about to break the silence.